Did you know? Detroit undercover cops in a drug ring once fought another group of undercover cops. People email love letters to trees in Australia. And in 2012, an entire village in Spain won the lottery. Stick around, because in today's video, we've got 30 mind-blowing facts that will absolutely astonish you. From the bizarre to the unbelievable, these facts are guaranteed to make you say, wow. So, grab a seat and get ready to have your mind blown. Let's jump right in. Number 1. You lose up to 30% of your taste buds during flight. This might explain why airplane food gets such a bad reputation. The elevation in an airplane can have a detrimental effect on our ability to taste things. According to a 2010 study conducted by Germany's Fraunhofer Institute for Building Physics, the dryness experienced at a high elevation, as well as low pressure, reduces the sensitivity of a person's taste buds to sweet and salty foods by about 30%. Add that dry cabin air affects our ability to smell, and our ability to taste is reduced further. Number 2. The majority of Americans choose dogs over love. Dogs have been known for the longest time as man's best friend. But Americans are increasingly taking that to a new level. A 2017 study found that 54% of dog owners are willing to end a relationship if their pup doesn't like their partner. The study also found that 94% of dog owners consider their dogs to be a part of their family, and 78% include their pups in major family moments. Since 1 in 4 people said they bring their cuddly companions on first dates, maybe consider bringing dog treats instead of flowers next time. Number 3. Your nostrils work one at a time. When we breathe in and out of our nose during the day, one nostril does most of the work at a time, with the duties switching every several hours. This nasal cycle is dictated by the same autonomic nervous system that regulates heart rate, digestion, and other unconscious bodily functions, and is the reason why, when our nose gets stuffed up, it does so one nostril at a time. Number 4. Chewing gum boosts concentration. Next time you are having trouble focusing, you might want to reach for a stick of gum. A 2013 study in the British Journal of Psychology found that those subjects who chewed gum while taking part in a memory challenge were able to stay focused for longer periods of time than those who did not chew gum. Number 5. Superman didn't always fly. The original comic book Superman could leap tall buildings in a single bound. But then he had to come right back down to Earth, because he didn't fly. It wasn't until the 1940s, when animators for a new animated series decided it would be too difficult to routinely draw him bending his knees, that it was decided that Superman could take off into the air. Readers got to see smooth animation, and a superhero gained a new power. Number 6. Space smells like seared steak. When you see footage of astronauts floating peacefully in space, do you ever wonder, what do space smells like? Well, according to some former astronauts, space does have a distinct odor that hangs around post-spacewalk. They've described it as hot metal or searing steak. Number 7. Kids ask 300 questions a day. A 2013 UK study observed young children and recorded the questions they asked the adults around them. The children tended to turn to their mothers for answers, and these moms could end up answering an average of nearly 300 questions per day, or one question every 2.5 minutes, the study found. The moms reported that the hardest questions they were asked included, "Why is water wet?" and "What are shadows made of?" Number 8. The healthiest place in the world is in Panama. A small valley near Volcan in Panama has garnered the distinction of being the world's healthiest place to live, according to a 2018 report by International Living. Called Shangri-La Valley, the area is home to beautiful scenery, a low cost of living, and a significantly longer life expectancy than the surrounding areas. All in all, the world's healthiest areas have some common factors, according to the ranking: a warm climate, an active social scene, healthy food, and a slower pace of life that makes for less daily stress. Number 9. Children's medicine once contained morphine. If you were a baby in the middle of the 1800s and you cried while teething, your parents might have given you Mrs. Winslow's soothing syrup. This medicine claimed that it soothes the child, it softens the gums, and allays all pain. It may have done plenty of soothing, but it was also extremely dangerous. This concoction, like many patent medicines of the time, contained morphine. Number 10. Our European ancestors were cannibals. In 16th and 17th century Europe, cannibalism was actually a fairly common practice, and it was all for medical purposes. The practice seems to have started because Egyptian mummies were thought to have magical curative properties, so they were ground up and put in many remedies. As the idea evolved, human bone, blood, and fat were all used in medical concoctions. Got a headache? Crush a skull and make it into tea. While medical cannibalism has fallen out of favor, modern medicine still sometimes uses one human body to heal another in the form of blood donations, organ transplants, and skin grafts. Number 11. Pro baseball once had women players. While there are currently no female players in Major League Baseball, there have been plenty of women in professional men's leagues. The first was Lizzie Arlington, who pitched during the 9th inning for the Reading Coal Heavers in 1898 and won her team the game. A little over 30 years later, an African-American woman, Jackie Mitchell, pitched against the Yankees during an exhibition game, striking out both Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. What's more impressive, Mitchell was 17 years old at the time. Number 12. More human twins are being born now than ever before. Do you get the feeling that there are more twins around these days than there used to be? No? Well, you should, because according to a new study in the journal Human Reproduction, the twinning rate has increased by 1/3 since the 80s, up from 9 to 12 twins per 1,000 deliveries. Currently, that adds up to about 1.6 million twins born each year across the world, meaning 1 out of every 42 babies is a twin. Helping drive this is the increasing use of medically assisted reproduction and the delay in childbearing. Twinning has been found to increase with a mother's age. Number 13. Dinosaurs lived on every continent. Back in their day, dinosaurs lived on every continent on Earth, including Antarctica. The reason we only find their bones in certain places, though, is that weather and soil conditions in those places were just right for the bones to be fossilized. Scientists also speculate that there may be many smaller-sized dinosaurs that we know nothing about because their bones were too small to fossilize well. Number 14. Bee hummingbirds are so small, they get mistaken for insects. Hummingbirds are known for being itty-bitty creatures, but bee hummingbirds are the teeniest versions of these shockingly tiny flyers. They're actually the smallest bird in the world. They are so minuscule that they are sometimes mistaken for insects, which explains their name. According to the National Audubon Society, the birds are just 2¼ inches long and weigh less than a dime. Number 15. In Germany, people help toads cross the road. You might not want to bring up the popular video game Frogger in Germany. There, they like to protect their frogs, toads, and other amphibians. In order to save them from harm when crossing the street, conservation organizations installed more than 800 fences along popular roadways. Along these fences are buckets, so when they try to cross, they eventually hop into one. At the end of the day, wildlife conservationists collect the buckets and release frogs across the road into a nearby forest with ponds and lakes. Number 16. Most people break up on Mondays. Searching through public Facebook data, Lee Byron and David McCandless found that relationships' statuses changed for the worse 2 weeks before Christmas, around Easter, and on Mondays. Though this data may be somewhat misleading, as people might not be live updating their breakups, it shows an obvious trend. Number 17. Detroit undercover cops in a drug ring once fought another group of undercover cops. Put your hands up. No, you put your hands up. That's likely what went down in November 2017, when 2 groups of undercover cops in Detroit accidentally mistook each other for the drug dealers and buyers they were respectively trying to bust. What ensued during the raid was a standoff, resulting in fists being thrown while guns were pointed at each other. Internal Affairs had to be contacted to put the officers under investigation in an attempt to figure out the unfortunate miscommunication. Number 18. Some Maryland residents are taxed for the rain. As they say, nothing is certain but death and taxes. Depending on where in the world you live, rain may be just as much of an inevitability. And for some Maryland residents, rain and taxes are both inescapable and tied together, thanks to the rain tax, which was passed by the state legislature and signed into law in 2012. 9 counties, as well as the city of Baltimore, pay the annual fee that the Center for Watershed Protection describes as a user fee charged to property owners for the service of managing the polluted runoff coming from their property. Number 19. There's a tiny Polish village where everything is painted with pictures of flowers. Sometime in the 19th century, the people of Zalipy, a tiny town northeast of Krakow, began painting flowers on local buildings. Originally, the paintings were meant to cover up the blackened walls left behind by soot from chimneys. But soon, they became a tradition. Nowadays, the flowers cover everything from houses and barns to schools and churches. At the end of the 1940s, Zalipy even started an annual flower painting competition that takes place after the Feast of the Corpus Christi in June. Number 20. Hugs make you healthier. Simply holding your loved ones tight can boost your immune system. For one 2014 study that was published in the journal Psychological Science, participants were exposed to a common cold virus and were monitored in quarantine to assess signs of the illness. Those participants who were hugged more often and felt socially supported experienced less severe signs of the illness. Number 21. People email love letters to trees in Australia. The city of Melbourne, Australia, loves its trees, so much so that in 2013 they assigned each one an email address so that the public could report any tree-related issues they noticed, things like dangerous branches. However, instead of sending messages about hazards, people began writing love letters to the trees. "Hi tree, you are just outside my work and you make me happy. Keep growing and keep on treeing," wrote one person. "Dear smooth-barked apple myrtle, I am your biggest admirer. I have always wanted to meet you, but tragically, I'm stuck in New York," wrote another. Number 22. The first person convicted of speeding was going 8 miles per hour. According to Guinness World Records, the first person to be charged with speeding was Walter Arnold of the English village of Paddock Wood, Kent. On January 28, 1896, Arnold was spotted going 4 times the speed limit in his 19th century Benz. But since the speed limit at the time was just 2 miles per hour, that meant he was not going too fast by today's standards. The constable had to chase him down on his bicycle, issuing a ticket for 1 shilling and earning Arnold the speedy distinction. Number 23. Playing music for plants helps them grow faster. You may have heard that talking to your plants can help them grow stronger. But were you aware of the fact that music can also help them flourish faster? According to botanists, vibrations that travel through sound waves may stimulate growth factors in nearby plants. And that's not all. Evolution may have given plants ears so they can hear warnings about predators. Number 24. Some stray dogs in Cuba are given homes in state institutions, including banks and museums. Around 21 formerly stray dogs in Cuba now live and work in state institutions, including gas stations, museums, banks, and even a public toilet. They stay here and nothing happens to them. Dalia Garcia, caretaker of a public toilet, who oversees 2 of the dogs, told the Daily Mail in 2015, "Everyone takes care of them, no one hits them. They don't bark and they don't bite anyone." The dogs are issued special ID cards that note where they work. The tags mean they can't be detained by the local dog catcher. Number 25. Drinking coffee can help you live longer. Granted, there is such a thing as too much coffee. However, studies have found that drinking moderate amounts of the stuff may actually help you live longer. A 2018 Journal of the American Medical Association study of around 500,000 British adults found that coffee drinkers had a slightly lower risk of death over a 10-year follow-up period than non-coffee drinkers. Number 26. The world wastes about 1 billion metric tons of food each year. Food waste is a huge problem. How big? About 931 million metric tons. That's how much food that researchers with the United Nations estimate was wasted in 2019. According to the Food Waste Index Report 2021, which surveyed 54 countries, finding that the majority of wasted food, 61%, comes from homes, while restaurants and other food services produce 26% of wasted food. Grocery stores make up just 13% of food waste. Number 27. Rowdy goats have to wear pool noodles on their horns. Goats love to play, which is absolutely adorable. However, if one of the animals gets a little too rowdy, their horns can hurt other animals or people. In order to keep things safe, the goat's caretaker can pop pool noodles on the creature's horns. Tennis balls and buckets are also used and look just as hilarious. Number 28. Armageddon is a 19th century naval term for the perfect weather to start a journey. Ever feel like it's the perfect day to have an adventure? That's Armageddon. It's a slang term from the 19th century that those in the Navy would use to describe the ideal weather for starting out on a new voyage or journey, according to the Sailor's Word Book by William Henry Smith. It's actually derived from a Mediterranean word for fine weather. Number 29. In 2012, an entire village in Spain won the lottery. In 2012, the jackpot in Spain reached $950 million. With stakes that high, nearly everyone in the tiny 250-person town of Sodeto bought in, playing the same numbers, 5, 8, 2, 6, 8. And miraculously, they won. That meant each Sodeto resident took home at least $130,000, and one ticket even paid out $520,000. Number 30. Parrots have the power of reason. In addition to humans and chimps, the African gray parrot has been found to be able to reason, approximately at the level of a 3-year-old kid, according to Smithsonian Magazine. In an experiment, the parrots were presented with a pair of closed canisters and shown that there was food inside one of them. When the parrots were given the chance to choose between canisters, they consistently selected the one with food. That's all for today. Subscribe to our channel for more fun videos.